Well, it's time for today's press review, and I'm joined by Elena Casas. Hello, Elena. What's making today's headlines then?
Hello again, Louise. Well, let's start with that 50th anniversary of the ceasefire that ended the Algerian War on the 19th of March 1962. It's on the front page of Le Parisien. Their headline is They Remember, and they've collected inside a whole bunch of stories of ordinary people who lived through that war, who fought in it, people like a formidable-sounding 84-year-old guerrilla who fought in the war. When her husband was killed in it, she decided to take up his weapons and his role and fight for independence from France. She was imprisoned and tortured, she says, but she's never wondered if that was the right thing to do. She knew that it was. They talked to people like Algerian soldiers who were enlisted in the French army and then had to flee Algeria after the war because they were worried they'd be persecuted. And French families, people who had to flee Algeria as children, having grown up there, they suddenly had to put everything they owned into one suitcase and leave overnight after the ceasefire because they were so worried they would be persecuted. So the paper points out this period of history is still a bit taboo in France. It's not really taught in schools. Things like the atrocities that were committed by the French army in Algeria aren't necessarily well known. So there's something that needs to be done even now. It's to tell these people's stories and try and get them across. Inside the communist paper L'Humanité, they're looking back over a chapter of their own history, if you like. They apparently were taken to court 150 times between 1958 and 1962 because of their reporting on the Algerian war, because they were the only French paper at the time to report these atrocities. So they were charged with crimes like defaming the army and trying to encourage soldiers to disobey their orders. But the paper says it's one of the proudest episodes of their history now.
Certainly a very emotional story. What about the present day? Left party leader Jean-Luc Mélenchon held a very successful rally in Paris yesterday.
He did. He stormed the Bastille, as L'Humanité puts it, the communist paper, on their front page. They reckon that there were 120,000 people in the Place de la Bastille yesterday. Might seem enormous, but I was there. I can tell you could hardly move in the square. And now, why exactly is he doing so well is what they're asking. He's leading a kind of ideologically diverse coalition of left-wing groups, including the Communist Party, and yet he's punching well above their electoral weight. Polls are giving him 11% now, which is pretty significant. Why? Well, they say to start with, he's riding this wave of kind of pan-European discontent with the economic crisis, with ordinary people who feel they're already having trouble getting to the ends of the months, now being forced to pay for that. They feel that the bankers who caused it have got away scot-free and still earning telephone number bonuses. So Mélenchon has a lot to say about that, a lot to say about European solidarity and about Greece and how he wants to stand up for the oppressed people all over Europe. He's also managed to group together a fairly diverse coalition of people who wouldn't necessarily go to a far-left rally, groups that feel they've been oppressed by the Sarkozy government, they've been persecuted, like immigrant groups, like teachers even, after Sarkozy said they didn't work hard enough the other day. They've all been rallied to the left. And in France, of course, there's also this tradition of what they call la France du non, those who voted no to the 2005 Lisbon Treaty, those who've long believed that Europe might impose too much liberal free market dogma on the French economy, who don't want it. And of course, with the recent budget treaty, that's exactly what seems to have happened. So that's also what's made the French angry, and it's turned them towards this far-left candidate.
And what else did he touch upon in his speech, Elena?
Well, as I said, he's known for sort of economic themes, social justice, and also fighting racism, taking the fight against xenophobia to Marine Le Pen's own white working-class voters. But as Libération points out today, Mélenchon has made himself a place, is their headline. But inside, they say, what's interesting is just a wide range of issues that go beyond social justice that he talked about yesterday. Abortion rights, gay marriage, things he wouldn't necessarily associate with the hard left. So he's really broadening his appeal. Everyone was there, from students to the young unemployed to grannies who'd never been to a rally before, they say. But in their editorial, they ask if all those people will really actually vote for him, or if they're just trying to salvage their left-wing consciences, and then when they actually get into a voting booth on the 22nd of April, will they actually vote for the more moderate left-wing candidate, François Hollande?
It's a good question. What about, you said he's surged in the polls, he's now at 11%, so does he pose a risk now to socialist candidate François Hollande?
That's certainly what right-wing paper Le Figaro thinks. Look at this, they've got Mélenchon pushes Hollande left as a headline. Now inside they say that it's partly Hollande's fault that Mélenchon's doing so well, because he's not charismatic enough, his policies are a bit blurry. At least with Mélenchon, you know, they say that he's against free market economics. With Hollande, you're not really sure, it depends what day it is, whether he's for or against. So what people want is some more clarity, and that's what Mélenchon's bringing them.
Thank you very much for that update. That was our press reviewer, Elena Casas there.